Friends, David Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project. This is our executive producer, Huck. How you doing, Huck? You being a good girl? Yeah? Yeah, she's been running around like a crazy girl today. We've had a lot of thunderstorms in northwest Montana in the last week. Last night, one buffered my house. Didn't shake, but wow, one of the closest ones I've ever had right here. And rained real hard, but pretty decent day today and cool. And Huck does not like the thunder. It's one of the few times she'll come over and sit by me if we're watching TV and just look at me like, Dad, I don't like this. Yeah, well, I don't like it either, Huck. So anyhow, thanks for being here. You are appreciated. And Huck appreciates it. And just so you know, we're still moving along, making good progress on the National Park movie. In fact, making really good progress on that. If you like those patches, you can get them on our website. And this is Huck TV. If I don't say that, she'll get all mad and bent. So I want to make sure I say that. And then a couple of things I don't usually talk about, and people brought it up to me and said, Dave, you need to talk about this. I said, okay, I will. And that is, don't. I've said this probably 50 times before, but maybe I don't say it enough. Do not ever buy one of my books on Amazon, eBay, any online source. You're just going to get ripped off. And the best example I can give you is I just took this off of Amazon's pages just now. So you can see the book's super highly rated. This is Missing 411 Western US. Amazon wants $110 for it. Montana, not so much, 77. Hunter, they want 91. For the Eastern book, they want 112. Friends, all these books are $25 on my website. And I just want you to see they're all rated super high. The highest and worst ripoff is Missing 411 Off the Grid, $140. They say they had it listed at $450. This is on Amazon's site. This is insane. I don't know why people just don't Google me. Go to missing411.com and you can order the books. Sobering Coincidence, $88. Devil's in the Detail, $94. You are my friends. The only reason those books are so high is because people are buying them and they don't know to Google Missing 411. Missing411.com, how much easier can it get? All right, another thing I need to talk to you about, and this is important. Just recently, a couple days ago, just outside of Yosemite National Park, I'll read you the news story that came out. San Francisco Chronicle, September 29th. A weekend hike near Yosemite National Park took a frightening turn after gunfire sent visitors scrambling for cover, according to officials. The Mono County Sheriff's Office, that's on the eastern side of the Sierra, said it began receiving frantic 911 calls about 1:50 in the afternoon Saturday from hikers on the Parker Lake Trail in the Ansel Adams Wilderness, who reported bullets flying overhead. The dispatcher could hear shots over the line, the agency said in a statement. Deputies rushed to the scene. I don't know how they rushed to the scene, because that could be way out there in the middle of nowhere. Fearing an active shooter, they soon located 3 people target shooting north of the trail. The shooters, all from Southern California, stopped when confronted and were arrested. They were booked into Mono County Jail on suspicion of felony willful discharge of a firearm in a grossly negligent manner. Giddy up. Several hikers interviewed by authorities afterward described the chaos. Many stated that they heard multiple gunshots and could feel and hear bullets passing overhead. The sheriff's office said they hunkered down behind rocks and trees until the shooting stopped. While no injuries were reported, they were definitely in harm's way and justifiably frightened, the sheriff said. The incident drew a swift response from law enforcement agencies, including the California Highway Patrol, U.S. Forest Service officers, and Mammoth Lakes Police. Target shooting is permitted in some areas of the eastern Sierra, but not near public trails where people are at risk. Duh. The sheriff's office reminded the public safety must always come first. I feel like a buffoon saying this, but I think I probably need to. In the U.S. forests that we have, yeah, you can go into the woods and you can shoot your gun. That's where most people hunt. But number one, if you're target practicing, you set your targets up right next to the bottom of a hill, a big hill, preferably a mountain, so that those bullets don't go over the top and land on the other side and hurt somebody. So that the bullets, when you shoot it, land in the hillside. When you go to a rifle or pistol range and it's outdoors, they have giant mounds. And you can't get a bullet over that mound unless you're completely, I won't use the word, you got to be a buffoon. So these people, they did the exact right thing. Hunker down, wait for the cavalry to get there, and just hope that those people that were shooting the bullets weren't trying to hit you. When I say weren't trying to hit you, we're going to talk about a case today. And here's one of the headlines on that case. This is the headline: Deer season toll amounts to 2 killed. 2 deer hunters were killed this year that we're going to talk about by wild bullets from people shooting their guns stupidly. And I've said this before, deer hunting in populated areas like California is dangerous. Very dangerous. I had stories told me by my dad and my grandfather about bullets flying around all the time. And so you read about 2, 3, 4, 5 hunters a year killed in California by stupid people hearing something in a bush, thinking it's a deer and just shooting into the bush, not even knowing what they're shooting at. Insane. And since this is deer hunting season in some parts of the United States right now, you better know what your backdrop is when you let that bullet fly. Because there's a great chance you're going to miss your target, or that bullet's going to go through your target and hit something else. There have been a lot of stories. I've talked to game wardens. Person says, yeah, I only shot one shot. And there was a herd of elk or deer. And it went through one deer, hit another deer, and he dropped 2 deer with one shot, but he only had 1 tag. And of course, the game warden has to talk to him and say, hey, technically that's a violation. You got to know what's behind what you're shooting. You can't injure more game or more people because you're not careful with your shots. Now, being a policeman and being on the SWAT team like I was, we carried super high-powered rifles, and we had to be more careful than the normal policeman on the street about what the backdrop was when we shot, because there was a very good chance the bullet would go through what we were aiming at and possibly hit something behind it. So yeah, it was always on our mind. Okay, so what we're talking about today are 2 cases. First case is in California, and it is a deer hunter. The man's name was A.H. Smith, 60 years old, went missing September 17th, 1950 at 3 p.m. His actual name was Alexis Arthur Smith. Left home on September 16th to hunt with his stepson. They were super tight, close, liked to do things together. They looked out for each other. Good relationship. The name of the stepson was V.B. Skiff, Stepson lived in Lathrop, and Alex, the older man, the 60-year-old man, lived in a city called Galt. Now, if you're not familiar with California, Galt is south of Sacramento, north of Stockton. It has a population today of about 25,000 people, but in 1950, it only had 1,500 people. It was a pretty small place. But Galt had their own rifle and pistol range even in 1950, which tells you that way back then, firearms were a big item in the San Joaquin Valley. Sportsmanship, hunting, it was big back then. Not so big anymore. So the guys went hunting at an elevation of about 4,800 feet at a place called China Flat near Kybers. Let me explain where that is. So this is Highway 50. This is the Tahoe Valley, South Lake Tahoe. Myers, Echo Lake, Sacramento would be down this way. Sacramento, take Highway 50 to get to South Shore Lake Tahoe. You take Highway 80 to get to North Shore. I probably drove this road 200 times, at least, because my folks had a small house, like a cabin, in South Shore. And we always used to use it to go skiing at Heavenly Valley or go fishing. We used to go up into this area back in here is Desolation Valley Wilderness area. Great place to hike. A lot of fun stuff back there. These guys were right here at China Flat. Now, just south of there, Kirkwood, big ski area. But in this area right here was nothingness. So Smith and Skiff arrive on the 16th, and they set up their camp. Have dinner. Their drive, maybe 2.5 hours from where they lived to where they were camping, not that far. And the next day, on the 17th, they go out together to hunt. And when they're out there, it was never explained how, and it never really is, how they got separated. But at the end of the day, Skiff went back to their campground and waited for Smith. Honked the horn, late at night, fired off 3 rounds. Nothing. The next day on the 18th, he drives out and he gets the sheriff's office. And in that area, it's the El Dorado County Sheriff. The sheriff at that time was a man named Roland Morris. He was actually on the scene with this team of his responding to a missing person case. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there is a show on TV, kind of like Cops, but it's about the El Dorado County Sheriffs, and they ride along with them, and they have areas all up and down Highway 50 all the way into Lake Tahoe. It's kind of a cool show. You get to see some of the area I'm talking about right now. Well, on the 19th, September 19th, the search and rescue actually gets going pretty decently. The location is fairly remote even today. They got 20 ground pounders in there, and they also got the hunters in that area to stop hunting and help them search, which is a great strategy because those hunters usually know the area as well. Well, they searched that whole day. They got nothing. September 20th, searchers are out, and they're in multiple teams, and they come across a hat near the China Flat campground. And on the 20th, Mrs. Smith arrived from the house in Galt and was on scene and in that camp. And later on that day, she was shown this hat that they found, and she goes, "That's my husband's." Well, it wasn't found that far away from where Skiff and Smith split up. So what they decided was that they would get all of the search and rescue teams focused in that area, since that was obvious a place he was at. Now, weirdly, Skiff said that the hat was on the opposite side of this mountain that they were hunting, and he thought that Smith was going to stay on this side. So that was odd. Well, they searched that hole, they didn't find anything. The 21st, search continued, focusing on the area of the hat, moving outward. They didn't find any tracks or any other evidence. This area can best be described as a lot of trees, but a lot of open area as well. A lot of granite, a lot of rocks, and at about 5,000 feet, they get a lot of snow up there. A lot of snow. September 23rd, September 22nd, there's another huge push by the county sheriffs and the hunters. They go all day, nothing's observed. The next morning, Sheriff Morris comes in and says they hadn't found any additional evidence other than the hat. They didn't think he had any medical issues. Sheriff said they didn't know where else to search, and they were calling off all search and rescue. Family was devastated. 1950, 3 or 4 day search, probably about normal back then. It wouldn't happen now. They'd go for at least 7 or 8 days, and maybe 10 days if the family pushed it. But it was stopped. Family went home, and they talked it over, and they got a hold of people in Galt and people that lived around the Stepson and Lathrop. And they got a pretty good group of friends together, and they came back on September 29th. And they went back to China Flat to continue the search. Stepson said that he found later on 2 hunters who saw Smith walking a road the day he vanished, in essentially the area they found the hat. Nobody had seen anything since. Nobody had found anything since. But it was more validation that he was in that area. There was a lot of conjecture too about why would he lose his hat? A lot of questions about that. So they search for 2 days, everyone goes home. October 13th, the sheriff, Morris, gets a call from Company C, 184th Infantry of the California National Guard. And they said that they wanted to search for Smith. As it happened, is Smith had friends in the National Guard near the area where he lived, and they were members of the gun club. And those guys got their National Guard group together, and as a training session, they were going to go out and search and rescue. I like it. It's excellent training. So the sheriff recommended focusing on the Silver Fork area south of China Flat. This is north. This is south. They were into this no man's land out here. Alex had a brother. His name was George, who was on scene. And he said to the press he believed his brother walked east. So the sheriff said to go south. Brother said he thought he went east. There was no explanation as to why the brother said that. But the China Flat campground in Silver Fork is located on a creek called Hell's Delight Creek. Years ago, when I started doing these videos, I said, these locations have names for a reason. The $1 million question is how they got their name. Because nobody really knows, 99% of the time. A lot of rumors. Hell's Delight Creek? Pretty ugly name for an area. Well, on October 31st, searchers had finished searching from the previous weekend and reported finding nothing. November 3rd, the Galt Gun Club, under the direction of the stepson, Skiff, went back to the search and rescue area and searched for 2 more days. Nothing. November 6th, 2 more days of searching. Nothing. And the weather was turning, starting to snow, getting cold, and they called off all searches. I searched forward 5 years, 6 years. Smith was never found. To me, that's very troubling for that area. Now, I lived in a lot of areas. When I was in California, I had been all up and down the Sierras from Southern California all the way up to the Oregon border. Then I lived in Colorado for 10 years. I was all over the Rockies. And now I've been in Montana for going on 7 years. I've been all over these mountains. Friends, the Sierras are not that rough. The roughest and most brutal ones, bar none, are the Rockies. Montana, nah, not that bad. Rockies are tough. A lot of it has to do with elevation. Just brutal. I don't understand why so many people go missing in the Sierras and are never found. It's really troubling. And the more I do this, the more I find that there's bodies scattered all over the Sierras that, well, maybe they're not there. Who knows? But they're scattered all over. And where are they? That's the $1 million question. All right. Next case. This one's going to make you think. Person's name is Michael Dean Voss, 64 years old. Looks pretty good for 64. This is Oregon driver's license picture. Went missing October 10th, 2024. Not even a year ago. 5'11", 150 pounds, white male. He was a professional grant writer, federal and state grants. And this is a pretty cool picture of him. Younger days, but he was a landscape photographer. And he had taken some great photos. You could see a lot of them online. Extremely experienced. And he had prior addresses in Coos Bay, Oregon, North Bend, Kenai, Castleoff, Alaska, Fairbanks, Anchorage. What that told me was this man knew the outdoors. He knew the dangers. And there's probably no place on our continent more dangerous to hike in than Alaska for a multitude of reasons. First of all, the weather changes on a dime. Second of all, a warm summer day can turn into a freezing rainy day and you can die of hypothermia in 12 hours. And they've got land mammals there that will kill you. So yeah, it's a very dangerous place. So he knew what the outdoors was like. He was born and raised in Oregon. But because he was a landscape photographer, he was always in the outdoors. Now I want to remind you, I've said this before, a lot of photographers have disappeared in the woods and never are found. And I don't get that either. Now, on October 10th, he was seen by friends in Coos County, Oregon. It was the last time he was seen. October 16th, friends, family had been searching for him, calling him, trying to find out where he was, hadn't heard from him. So, family and friends reported him as a missing person on the 16th. They told the sheriff that he was very self-sufficient in the woods. He knew how to live off the land. He wasn't afraid of the land. He wasn't scared of the outdoors. By the description, he almost seemed more comfortable in the outdoors than he did in a city, which I get that. Now, some friends, not family, And it was just mentioned in one article, believed he had early onset dementia. Personally, I don't believe those things. Because as I've told you before, search and rescue lies. They lie. And then the family corrects them later on and says, no, we never said that. And then, well, who said that? Oh, I don't know, some friend. Do I believe he had early onset dementia? Without the name of the person saying it? No, I don't believe it. And the family didn't say it, so. Now, it was believed Michael had gone to a remote area of the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. He also liked visiting the South Powers and the Elk River area. Notice that there's a lot of river areas that he liked. And when you're a landscape photographer, rivers, lakes, streams, they offer great vistas to take photos of. Now here's another one that was in an article I reviewed, and take it with a grain of salt. Certain friends stated that just before he disappeared, Michael had stated that the devil and angels were speaking to him. What do you make of that? We'll talk more about that later. But I could find no mention in anything I reviewed that he was a drug user or had abused drugs. So take that. So on October 16th, he's declared to be a missing person. The sheriffs don't know where to search. So they're given the license plate number of his car and his description, and those rural deputies and town deputies are told to look out for the car. That's going to be the easiest way to find somebody. Well, the deputies are patrolling an old logging road, and they drive up it until it's blocked by Michael's car that stopped in the logging road. Location was 9 miles south of Powers, Oregon. It's a rural area that he was in. He was on a logging road about this area. Agnes, Powers, Bancroft, Gaylord. Rogue River, Siskiyou National Forest. So he was in that area that I was saying people thought. Now this is the scene that the deputies drive up to. His car is stopped up next to almost like, this is a trailer. You see him around a lot, and they're a bed of a truck turned into a trailer. It's like a hillbilly way to pack firewood out. That's his car. They said it wasn't disabled, looked drivable. And the deputies get out, and they're looking around. And they figure that the car had been there for quite a while, but they weren't sure. Deputies search the area, and just northeast of the car, they find a pile of Michael's clothing. In their reports, they stated they believed he stripped all of his clothes off right after he exited the car. Why would he do that? Come on, tell me. Coos County Search and Rescue was called, and they brought in drones, canines, ground pounders. They gave it a 3-day effort. They also brought in a Corsair. They found nothing. Nothing. Now, I have had several other cases where searchers found clothes of the missing in a pile. And the people were never found. I want you to ask yourself, if somebody told you that they were hearing the devil and angels talk to them, what do you think? What's your first thought? 25 years ago, if you would ask me that, I would have said, they got some mental health problems. With what I know now, I'm not so sure I would think that way. How do we really know what is talking to him? I know some super smart, credible people that have said that they've had mind speak into their mind by something. I've gone to conferences and I've heard abductees talk about the aliens mind speaking into their head. I've had police officers and firefighters tell me that a Bigfoot had talked in their head. Are these people crazy? No, they're not. But the question always to me is, how do you really know what is talking in your head if you're not looking at them? So let's say aliens in front of you, you are on their ship, you're looking in their face and they're saying, don't be nervous, we're not going to do anything to you, we're kind people, and they put their hand out. Okay, then you can kind of say, well, this alien mind spoke to me. Makes sense, right? You're in the woods, a Bigfoot comes into your path, and in your head it says, this is our area, stay out, and they're blocking the path. I think I would turn around and leave. I think it's a pretty good assumption that thing mind spoke to me, right? I'm not saying it happened to me, it didn't, but I'm saying if someone had that happen. And then what would cause you to strip your clothes and walk into the wilderness? Again, I've gone to many conferences, UFOs, abductees, Bigfoot, blah, blah, blah. I had and heard stories of at least 20 people, different conferences, different times, different places, who have said that the aliens told them that they had to strip their clothes off. Do you remember the X-Files series? There was an episode where everyone went to this mountain location. They didn't know why. But all these people ended up going to this mountain location, and a craft came down near the mountaintop. And they all knew that they were supposed to go and get on that ship. I have no idea why Michael stripped his clothes. But until you have healthy discussions about all of the options, I'd be the last one to say someone's crazy to do that. No, hey, Dave's not doing that, okay? If you have the ability to speak in your mind and you're saying, hey, Dave, strip your clothes off and go down the trail, I'm going to get back in my car and drive like a madman the other way. All right? I'm going to look for an In-N-Out burger. I'm going to go in there, have a double-double and a large Coke and a large fry and just bury my head in comfort food and hope I don't hear anything. So, okay. The current thinking on human consciousness, this kind of broaches a topic that I've been learning a lot about in the last 3 years. The latest theories on this is that our mind is a receiver for the universe. And everyone is tuned to a different frequency, let's say. And how much you download or how much you can hear and accept is based upon, let's just say, how good your antenna is. A lot of people say, oh, that's your third eye, and maybe it's calcified as you get older. I gotta say that in the last 5 years, I've come up with things that I don't even know where I got them. Honestly. As an example, in Missing 411, the UFO connection, 80% of that movie was made on the run, where things kept dropping in our lap all the way down. And in the end, it all made sense. A hunter abducted, dropped on the ground, eventually found, medical issues with him were cleared up, Other hunters in that same area, also German, disappeared, never found. And then right near him, a guy was trying to drill for water on a ranch, never could until the aliens told him to drill right here, and he drilled and he hit a gusher. All that just dropped in my lap. I told the guys at the end of that film, I said, you know, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. We had some help on this. I don't know where the help came from. But it was leading me around by my nose. You know, I laid in bed and I said thank you many times. And if you want to continue to lead me by the nose, go ahead. I'll keep following that nose right down the road. But that human consciousness angle, what we download unknowingly, and that our minds are all intertwined with the universe. And I know it's a very complex thing to understand and to maybe grapple and say, well, that makes sense. But there's so many things about you that have happened in your life that you probably don't even remember. Say you're walking through a park. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. You're walking through a park and you feel like somebody's staring at you. And you turn around and there's a guy staring at you back there. So that's just not a guess. Some antenna. Hey, Huck, come on. Some antenna on you picked that up and warned you. What's wrong? You say that's enough, Dad? But there's hey, this is the time. This is the time. Huck hears things, it's about 10 o'clock at night right now. Hey, come on. I don't hear any. Come here. I know, Wolf, I know, come on. Hey, come on, you're waking people up. They want to sleep. I know, I'll be done in a second. Okay, so think about your life, and you think about those times where there was nothing directly that came in, but you felt it. I appreciate you being here. Huck really doesn't. Huck wants to leave. And so, remember, this is the kindness, evolution, revolution. Be kind to everybody. And when you leave here, I want your mind to think about what I told you. Just to end the story, Michael was never found. Be kind. Paulides out.